1863 it was born below zero, but it's the blessing of our temperate climate that extremes never last long. This one only stayed for 3 months. As week succeeded week, we fortunately didn't know it at the time, but that terrible weather was to be an omen of a stormy year.
Welcome to Mittersill railway station. I brought you here to show you the thermometer. -10. That's what you call winter weather. The historic market town of Mittersill. Historical significance. This is a phrase I've used a lot in putting this program together, this documentary, but it is of course to do with an ancient historic market town of Mittersill, but also for its connection to legendary singer, songwriter, country and western performer Mr. Pete Gardner. And I have to say, here on this very terrace, on a nice sun-drenched day, I too have enjoyed a beer with Pete Gardner at some tables along here in his musical homeland, the town of Mittersill. And by the way, I'm standing outside another prominent house here, Hotel Gasthof Heitzmann. Hotel, restaurant, Hotel Heitzmann. There you go. So, welcome to the center of Mittersill. With its newly tarmac roads and new layout, and of course all its beautiful mountains hidden behind the clouds. I'm standing here outside the historic Meilinger Tavern, one of the town of Mittersill's most frequented restaurants. And it's here where not only the renowned musician Pete Gardner has had many meals and drunk many beers in the Meilinger Tavern here in the centre of Mittersill, but even lesser known artists such as Mick Hucknall from Simply Red has also dined in this particular restaurant. So it's a historical restaurant. Country music icon Pete Gardner has played many concerts here on specially erected stage here in the centre of Mittersill on this very cold day. It's -10. This morning when I woke up it was -18. And this is probably the coldest we've had it for a long while here in the centre of Mittersill, in the province of Salzburg, just 1.5 hours south of Salzburg city itself. And as I say, it's an historical marketplace that has recently become a town, and historical in the musical sense because it's where the legendary country and western singer-songwriter Pete Gardner created many of his latest or most well-known songs. And Pete used to include, not just include, but base his musical tour around Austria here in the town of Mittersill. And as I stand outside the entrance steps to the historical Meilinger Tavern, I'm going to walk you along here, the Lebzeltergasse. Lebzeltergasse. This can be compared to parts of the city of Liverpool, Penny Lane, for example. Just join me walking along here, and I'll give you some more historical facts about the Lebzeltergasse and some of the premises that are featured along here. Premises that in the summer months get transformed from this innocent looking barn to a country and western venue with live music. They're very creative here in Austria. Now we're walking along the Lebzeltergasse on a very cold and wintry day, as I say, -10. And there's a very popular place here on the right hand side coming up, which people would frequent on a cold day like today for a nice spot of Austrian coffee with a cake. This is the legendary Plätzer Konditorei. I say legendary in many ways. It's a family-run business, being passed down to the younger generation over the years, and it's also legendary because this is where a lot of live music takes place. And I'm going to take you to the spot where legendary country and western singer-songwriter Pete Gardner used to perform. In fact, here it is. This area here. This area here is where Pete Gardner used to set up his equipment, and it was from here that he would be performing to the massive crowds that find their way through the center of this holiday resort. And just for good measure is the Krankenhaus just next door. Always useful to have that here in the event of people injuring themselves in the clamour to get to where Pete is performing. So the Café Plätzer, and you know, it wouldn't be too poor a comparison if we were to compare it to the Cavern in Liverpool, where of course such famous Merseyside acts started their careers or formed their careers, and this is the musical venue that you could compare it to. In the winter people park their bikes here, and in the summer when Pete's playing they also park their bikes right in front of where he's playing. Now, another historical site, not the first balcony but the second balcony, I think. I stand to be corrected, I may be wrong. Let's get a view of the second balcony. This is, yes, this is the balcony where none other than Pete Gardner, legendary country and western musician, singer, songwriter, would stay. So probably they'll have to have a plaque here sometime to let people know that singer-songwriter Pete Gardner lived here. And these houses are quite historical, you know, they've been modernized and built onto over the years, but a couple of hundred years ago people used to express themselves by throwing the contents of their chamber pots down from the balcony. That was 200 years ago. And of course, these days people express themselves differently. Let's continue the winter's walk through the town of Mittersill. Here we have Café Plätze behind the trees. It's a big place, a large family. And of course, it's not just of historical musical significance, this town, for the legendary Pete Gardner, but there are family industries here, little shops that have been nurtured over the years. This one here, probably one of the most popular leather goods shop, Leder Rich. Lovely range of clothing and footwear here, not to mention the Lederhosen here, family Florian Huber. They've set up a kind of a do-it-yourself shop, which seems to be bigger than it ever was, and it just forms part of the magic of the town of Mittersill. It's a town. It's been a town for 5 years, 5 or 6 years, I think now. Only has a population of 6,000 people, and up there, what you're looking at is the castle, which has been transformed from a castle into a beautiful 4-star castle hotel. Welcome to Mittersill. Here in this shop here on the corner, very innocent looking shop, selling photocopiers and printing gadgets and all sorts. Well, it was here in this particular shop, Fred Kirchner. Here in this particular shop is where legendary country and western performer singer-songwriter Mr. Pete Gardner, in this particular shop he would have his posters produced. Posters that of course went round the whole of the town, not to mention the country, when Pete was over here doing his tour. Pete Gardner, famous for the Brexit tour, summer 16. Here's another very popular little shop here for some of Pete's fans. It's a gun shop, and we're coming up to the historical River Salzach. Here's the Mittersill town bridge, shortly to be demolished, where a new one will be built. Here we have the river, the famous Salzach river that runs through the valley. And of course, it's that cold. It was minus 18, minus 20 overnight. The river has started to freeze. Can you believe it? People doing some ice curling. Perfect day for ice curling. No sign of any trains so far, but there is a building coming into view that has another musical significance to this market town of Mittersill. The legendary country and western performer, singer-songwriter Mr. Pete Gardner also stayed here in this particular house on the top floor, and On many occasions, Pete would perform on the balcony of this particular house. Many of his songs that were recorded here are available on YouTube. There's the balcony. There it is, the top one, the top floor. This is where legendary singer-songwriter, country and western performer Pete Gardner has performed and recorded and written many a tune.